I'm often asked how I got so involved with the issue of equal marriage rights. And my story is this. First, as an activist and advocate for LGBT equality, and then as an elected official, I always wanted the bottom line for myself and for my community. The same rights, benefits, privileges, and yes, the obligations and responsibilities of marriage. But I wasn't so certain that we needed to fight a war over a word. But my heart and mind were changed irrevocably after having read the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court decision in November of 2003. They said that the only remedy to this identified discrimination was marriage and marriage alone. They said no parallel construct, such as civil unions or domestic partnerships, would do, they said, because, in their words, they said anything short of marriage itself would perpetuate a destructive stereotype that suggests there's something inferior and unstable about the way same-sex couples love. And so this was November 2003, and working with my friend Jeff Coors over at Equality California, we thought, let's introduce a marriage bill. I was so eager, I wanted to do it the 1st of January, and Jeff called me down and said, no, probably would be a good time to do it on National Freedom to Marry Day, which that year was going to be Thursday, February 12th. And then on Monday, February 9th, I heard what my mayor was going to be doing on Thursday, February 12th, which of course was to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples, coming to the county clerk, as they had for many years, to go through the procedure of requesting a marriage license, knowing that they would be refused, and then having a protest rally. But of course, Gavin Newsom, his first months in office, knowing this was going to happen February 12th, had to make the decision to either direct the county clerk to turn everyone away again, or, in fact, say no. As he tells the story, he took a pledge when he was sworn in as mayor just a couple months earlier to respect and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California, and that because of our equal protection clause in that Constitution, he had no choice but to treat everyone equally. You know the story. So I had planned to introduce the bill that Thursday, February 12th. Many of my colleagues, even some of my Democratic colleagues, mostly part of this conversation, my Democratic colleagues, not eager to see this come up for debate and a vote, were urging the Speaker of the Assembly to discourage me from even introducing the bill. And of course, a bill like this doesn't go forward without the blessing of the leadership, without the blessing of the Speaker. So I had many conversations with him. He was well informed as to what I was about to do. I think he was even going to be a co-author of the bill. And so I was racing as we completed our session on Thursday morning to get to San Francisco because the world was about to change and I didn't want to miss a minute of it. And Speaker Fabian Nunez called me into his office and said, Mark, you know, I had a sleepless night last night, and I just wanted to talk to you about your introducing the bill today. You know, maybe it's not the right year, it's a presidential election year, you may not have the votes. Some of your colleagues are suggesting this may not be the right time. What if you didn't introduce it this year? But next year, I guarantee you, I will be your joint author. It will be a Leno-Nunez bill, and we'll take it through all committees and we'll get it to the governor's desk. And I'm looking at my watch thinking, I gotta get out of here, I gotta get to San Francisco. And I said, I think I had tears in my eyes, I think Fabian had tears in his eyes. And I put my arm on his shoulder and said, Fabian, you're so dear. I know you're fully in support of what we're doing. But listen, I gotta get out of here because my heterosexual mayor is about to start issuing marriage licenses in just about an hour and I've gotta get there. And he looked at me and he said, okay, go right ahead. We added a new section to the bill the second year, 2005, the Religious Freedom and Civil Marriage Protection Act. And we put the religious freedom part of it in the bill specifically to deal with the radical religious right argument that this was going to force churches and ministers to perform marriages that their religion prohibited them from doing. And of course, they used that whole argument in the Yes on 8 campaign. And because Governor Schwarzenegger vetoed our bill, that bit of wording didn't make it into statute. And what it says is very simple, and it really just restates everyone's First Amendment right to freedom of religion. So there's nothing new in it, but we thought it was important to put it clearly into statute. And it says very simply that no minister, priest, rabbi, or any religious institution which does not recognize nor wish to solemnize these marriages will be required to do so. End of debate. And so that was our religious freedom part of the bill. And I'm in conversation with Equality California right now. We have every intention to introduce just that section of wording as a standalone bill this year. And I would imagine every Republican in the legislature would want to vote for that. When we get to the point of overturning Prop 8 and the religious right starts squawking that argument again, we can point to state statute and say it's already on the books. The definition of marriage has been so fluid and changing with every generation. I'll share with you a book title which is worth every moment that you might be able to put into it. It's called What is Marriage For? And the author is E.J. Graff, lesbian from Boston, wrote a social history of marriage. And just to condense it for you, she asked the question, what is marriage for? Well, prior to around 1860, marriage was considered to be a union of economic interests. But then the most revolutionary thing happened in 1860, first in England and then in the United States. For the first time, women could sign contracts and own property independent of their husbands. And the church and the conservative folks at the time said, you can't do this. The sky will fall. Civilization as we know it will come to an end. And of course it did, for good reason. And so after that occurrence, then the question was, well, what is marriage for? And E.J. Graff suggests that that's when it was defined as a lifetime commitment until death do us part. That's what marriage was for. Enter divorce. And there were columnists at the time, this is true, columnists were saying, you can't have marriage and divorce. They're oxymoronic. If you want to have divorce, you have to call it something else, because marriage is a lifetime commitment until death do us part. So if you're going to have divorce, call it something else. Call it civil unions, but you can't call it marriage, because if you do, the sky will fall and civilization as we know it will come to an end. She also points out that whenever your opposition tells you that if something happens, the sky will fall and civilization as we know it will come to an end, you're just about to win. And so, enter divorce, and of course, we have civil divorce in this country. Freedom of religion. The Catholic Church does not wish to recognize civil divorce. That is their right. And all we're talking about is civil marriage. They don't want to recognize it, not unlike civil divorce, they don't have to. So then E.J. Graff says, 1920, 1930, what was marriage for? It was then considered to be the legitimate vehicle for procreation. Enter contraception. So she concludes, now in the 21st century, when two people of potential economic equal means decide to come together and share the joys and splendor, the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of life together, maybe for a lifetime, maybe not, maybe to form a family, maybe not, that same-sex marriage is not only to be expected, it's inevitable.